It's First Shift. NHL Tonight, Tony Luppin, Kevin Weeks. So much fun last night. There were so many games, so many great stories going on. Only one game in the National on this Friday night, but we're going to have a heck of a show.
Yes.
We will welcome in Neil Pionk. A lot of NHL fans hear his name, think of you, and then laugh why.
Think of us.
Yes,
and
true.
then laugh why.
True.
Because that goal was a Bobby Orr, Paul Coffey type goal. It was a Picasso.
It was.
It wasn't even a goal. That goal he scored with the Rangers. Incredible.
And
we went bonkers that night.
Yeah, I want to hear, and I know you're going to ask him about it, what it was like to be a part of that play, what his teammates said, what his memories are like of that play.
Yeah, for sure. That was one of those iconic moments, and let alone the fact that he did it at the world's most famous arena, at Madison Square Garden. That will be one of those plays that will forever be remembered and etched in the memory of so many hockey fans. And he can always look back when he's retired. We'll give him another 10, 15 years in the league.
Plenty of time.
Yeah, plenty of time. But he can always look back at that one and say, yeah, it was pretty good.
It was at that same arena, MSG, that Connor McDavid beat all the Rangers and scored. At one point, he called it his most beautiful goal. One of our hosts here got up on the desk and was out of his mind. Was me, but I digress. First things first, here we go.
Let's
with
go.
Last night's action. Weeksy, let's start with the Washington Capitals. 10th straight road win. They still don't have Ovi. He's weeks away with that broken leg, but Alexi Protas, 11th goal last night. He had 10 goals combined in the two previous years. What a breakout campaign he's having.
Yeah, a lot of their guys are popping, their younger players, Protas being one of them, and that's a great sign. He's big, he's rangy, he's skilled, and on the board. The Washington Capitals have been a great story. Spencer Carberry, Mitch Lubb, the entire staff, even the front office for what they did in the offseason. They deserve a wealth of credit. They've been one of the best stories in the game. They're a great goal differential team this year. They're harder to play against, bigger, stronger, more power. The goaltending has been excellent with both Lindgren and Logan Thompson. And Jacob Chikrin's been a great addition on the back end. So all things being equal, Tone, they've been awesome.
And you said a big guy, 6'6", 225. You cannot teach that kind of size. Mike Johnson, I was on with him last night, NHL Tonight. He said, when you see him walk by in a hallway or skate by, it struck him, boy, that's a big guy. Boy, is he tough to play against because of that size. You can't teach it.
No, you can't teach it. And what you're seeing is now with the increased size in their lineup in general, be it him, of course, we can go up and down the lineup, but some of those acquisitions in the offseason, they're bigger and they're willing to pay the price to get to the hard areas. Because sometimes you can be big but not necessarily play big, but they're driving play, they're bullying by defenders, they're attacking the net, they're attacking the goal line and doing those things. And certainly you increase your probability to score, but also you wear down the opposing defenders and goaltenders by playing that way. So it's a huge prop to them. I'm very impressed with what the Caps have done this year. Remember, last year they made the playoffs on a negative goal differential, which
Dash 30-something.
Which even
Crazy.
still is impressive.
Bonkers.
Because that means you had to grit and grind and jam your way to wins.
Totally.
Which is incredible in its own right. But the fact that they've kind of reversed the script this year, rebalanced the table in terms of their approach and the way in which they play, yeah, that's absolutely amazing.
He's not the only one having a breakout campaign. As we look at them in the standings, they're at 42 points, which is tops among all Eastern Conference teams. There's Protas, flanked by the names that you've mentioned. Those four guys producing the way that they have now, is it sustainable?
I think it's sustainable because the way in which the team's playing, the style, the rhythm of the game, and every one of these guys, they're taking the next step and steps in their own individual game, but they're also doing it within the flow of the team game, which to me is even more impressive because, yeah, you want to have the pop as a player. I want to elevate my game, but sometimes it doesn't feel quite the same when you elevate your game, which is within your control, but the team game, when the team is flowing and you're winning and you're improving your individual game within the collective framework, man, it's a sweet thing. It's a sweet thing, and they're seeing that from those guys. And look, Tone, you need those younger to mid-age players
In a Cap world.
in a cap to
Absolutely.
pop for you, to elevate, and they've all done that.
Pierre-Luc Dubois, it was a bold move. It was a calculated risk. 8 times 8.5 with the LA Kings. 1 year in, they're looking to move him. No salary retained. Kemper goes the other way. Pierre-Luc Dubois has made the most of this new chapter. He's another of the players that we've watched early in the year flourish and feel confident and feel comfortable. It's been interesting to watch.
It's been interesting to watch it. I go back to that Stanley Cup final, which was in his draft year, and we met him outside. I'm like, this guy's a specimen. I can't believe it. The size, the V-taper back, he's jacked, everything, the skill set. for Pierre-Luc Dubois, the biggest thing for me with him is he's the one that can control his ceiling because he has all those elements.
He sure does.
So as good as he wants to be, as good as he commits to being, as much as he focuses in, that will determine his altitude. And it's nice to see him now having some traction there in Washington, to your point. And I think also just kind of coinciding with the vibes in the group and maybe the fit for him. And maybe there's some growing up for him too, some maturity as if to say, okay, I played in these different places. This is a team where they want me. There's no salary retained. I'm coming in. They value what I bring to the table. Not to suggest that LA didn't, but at this point, maybe all those factors with a little bit more maturity, a little more commitment from his standpoint, are paying some nice dividends for him and the Caps.
Without a doubt. So
Yeah.
the Caps are where they are towards the top of the standings. We all remember the story for Edmonton last year, starting 2-9-1, getting all the way to the Cup final, Game 7, and then being turned back. They are in their groove right now. We saw last night Leon Draisaitl, the first player in the league to get to 20 goals, and there he is, beating the Wild 7-1 in Minnesota. We know how great the Wild have been. What did that game say to you? Was it a statement win for the Oilers?
It was a statement win, Tone. I have to tell you, because we were just talking about it yesterday on NHL Now right here in the building, and for very good reason for how great the Wild have played, and deservedly so, giving them their flowers. And last night was a huge matchup. Not big, huge. And the Oil dominated them. I don't know what to tell you. The Oil dominated them.
He paused.
They sprung for the Oil. They struck Oil.
They did.
In the heart of Minnesota, who have
did.
been so good this year. That doesn't erase the great season that they've had. We're going to give the Wild their due. But head-to-head in that heavyweight fight last night, the Oilers gave them the TKO. So if you're the Wild, you got to reset and say, hey, we know we've had a great season. We know we're on the right track. John Hines is doing a great job. And I said this yesterday. To this point, Kaprizov is a league MVP, the Hart Trophy winner, to this point in the season. But in that big matchup last night, the Wild didn't look like the Wild. There was a lowercase W in the Wild last night for them.
There was one of my favorite analysts in hockey who said many years ago, the Wild are the tame.
Yeah. They were the tame last night.
You crack me up.
They were
with
the
that.
tame last night.
Oh.
I didn't like that because I love what they're doing this year.
Yeah.
But that performance last night was not reflective of who they are and what they're becoming this season. But you got to give the Oil credit.
Yeah.
You got to hand them credit. They went in. Minnie's a tough barn to play in on the road. Great fans in Minnesota. And the Oilers went in there and dictated their game plan.
Yeah.
They really, I'd say, impacted the game in every phase, and they dictated the game in every phase. They weren't passive at all.
We saw some highlights there. Leon Draisaitl didn't say a word last year in the playoffs. He was clearly compromised because when we watch him now, you see what allowed him to be a Hart Trophy winner.
sure.
You see just how impactful he is with the way he can share the puck. He had a funny goal last night that ricocheted off. When you're that good a goal scorer, you deserve for that to happen. When I think about the Edmonton Oilers, I can understand why they may not have been as sharp at the start of the season emotionally.
Yeah.
To go from, and we all know how emotional it got in that room after the Game 7 loss, you realize it's a long climb to get all the way back there. And we look at the numbers here, they're right where they need to be, right where they want to be. And if anything, last year demonstrated to us, you just want to be playing your best hockey when it matters the most. They were able to do that. As we look at McDavid, going into last night, it was 97 and 97, the two favorites for the Hart Trophy. As you mentioned, Kaprizov. These two guys, this window, as they continue to do what they're doing, this is a team that a lot of people are going to look back on and say, if they didn't win the Cup, why didn't they win the Cup? They had so much talent at that time.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you look at some of the Stanley Cup teams and some of those Stanley Cup winning teams as well, the teams that get their full due, but if you look at those Stanley Cup winning teams, they always have the duos. And some are more blessed. Obviously, in Colorado, they're blessed with even more.
Yeah.
Tampa's been blessed with even more. But in Pittsburgh, I look Sid and Gino.
Yep.
And, of course, then they had the depth throughout the lineup as well, and other great players, Letang among others. But when you have a duo like this, you can't squander it. You can't squander. I was in Edmonton almost every weekend, my first 7 years of broadcasting, doing games for Hockey Night in Canada. Literally, and it was first overall after first overall after first overall. And some of those players like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who's still there, turned out to be very good players, Taylor Hall amongst them. But all that to say, those were lean years, Tone. And the snow felt icier in
believe it.
Edmonton. The winds were blowing. They were howling even more.
I believe it.
And now The franchise, first of all, you've got great ownership. You have one of the best arenas and districts in the world in terms of the sports and ice district there in Edmonton. And it's coincided with these guys being there. So you can't waste time. You've got to continue to make it happen. And you're right, they're playing their best hockey of the season right now. I like the way they're cooking. But this is a team, I still think, and I said right here in the studio alongside EJ, I think they're going to get to Stanley Cup final again. It wouldn't surprise me if they got there.
Not at all. And the atmosphere in Edmonton, it felt like an earthquake.
It was unreal.
Those home games, just hours and hours of earthquake.
Unreal.
Speaking of Cup final heroism, what about Nikita Kucherov? We've seen him be a part of 3 straight trips to the Cup final. He was tremendous last night. Touchdown, Cooch. 6 points in that 8-3 win on the road against Calgary. And there he is, among the NHL point leaders this season. He had that play where he knocked the puck loose at the blue line and he was going. People don't often talk about the pace of his skating. He was effective enough to go down and score to make it 1-1. What impresses you the most about his game at this point?
Well, there's so many different elements, but a lot of guys that I talk to around the game, a lot of people in the business, whether they're current players, superstars, former agents, coaches, you name it, everybody says, if you want to watch a how-to video, he's one of the guys that you watch. And that's the ultimate compliment you can pay. And a lot of guys will say, I watch Cooch. I try to learn from him, what he's able to do at the power play. But what's also pretty unique about him is it looks as though he's playing golf in and around the greens, like just on the fringe, because he's able to open the blade up, manipulate the blade, and the way he does that, just
precise.
It's so skillful.
Agreed.
It's so artistic.
Agreed.
His vision and the way he's able to sling it. And what I love about him is when you watch him play, everybody has their own tempo, but he's a very rhythmic player. It's very elegant. And all these little shimmies and shakes, you just have to bite on 1 or 2 of them. And once you bite just on one, you're cooked. So he can manipulate goalies and defenders. He's just a real unique player. Great player.
So Kucherov, who has been in the discussion for the Hart Trophy before, you feel Kaprizov. Where is Kucherov in your thought process about league MVP here, roughly a third of the way?
Well, he's right there. He's right there. And the reason why I say Kaprizov, albeit in a tough way for me to get there, but I'll still say it definitively, is he doesn't have any other superstars on the team. He is the superstar.
That's value.
And he has different guys in the group like Boldy and some of these other guys and Faber and Eriksson Ek and other guys that have elevated their game, which is great to see for the Wild and John Hines, of course, and the great fans in Minnesota. But it's not like he's got a Cale Makar. He doesn't also have a Rantanen. You get what I mean? There's not a Draisaitl. So all of that to say,
Degree of difficulty
and the weight of the lifting. But he's proud. He's a team first guy. Carter told us that from Minnesota on their broadcast at Ryan Carter yesterday here on NHL Network. I just think right now he's a tick above the rest just because of the volume of lifting that he has to do. But that's not an indictment to any of those guys because every one of them, Rantanen, McKinnon, McDavid, Draisaitl, they're all right there.
Right.
They're
in
all
the
right
elite,
there.
elite,
Yeah,
best of the
Kucherov,
best.
they're all there.
What hits me when you see him up close, and we have, when I saw Nathan McKinnon up close, I was like, man, that's a thoroughbred right there.
Sure.
Go Rantanen.
Yeah.
When you see Nikita, he cannot physically impose his will on a game, yet he's effective all the time. How? Up here.
Yeah, up here. I play with the great Alexander McGillney, and again, to me, I could scratch every whisker off the top of my head as to why he's not in the Hall of Fame.
Same here.
But he's a Hall of Fame player to me.
Agreed.
And I know because I played with him and against him. So
Agreed.
all that to say, when I watch Kucherov, he's not as fast as McGillney, but watch this play.
Yep.
Look at this back check. For all you girls and boys out there, look at that play. Look. All right, come.
Yep.
Triple coverage, see you later. So he makes the incredible back check, and then he goes the length of the rink, manipulates 3D. Here it is, look. This is a how-to video. This is a tape for all you young kids, look, and you guys in junior and college and the minors. Look here, look. It's a Friday now. Make sure you watch this before you go and play or before you go to practice. Isolate. 3, look, triple coverage. Unselfish, little dish pass, so he's a very unique talent, but very cerebral. The brain is in synergy with the skill set, Tone.
Unfortunately, the year he won the Hart Trophy was the year Tampa had the best regular season in the history of the sport. They run into Columbus and get swept. For some reason, I feel like that's not as much of the hockey fans' consciousness as it should be, that he was so spectacular that year. And of course, when we think back to them going to 3 straight Cup finals, he's right in the mix.
Yeah.
And I want to say this respectfully. We do the best we can at the draft. You and I have covered it. We have no idea what we're doing. If we pick him 58, I don't think there are 58 or 57 better hockey players that have ever put on skates than that guy.
You see?
Come on.
And you're right. And the draft is very inexact science. I've worked it the last 6-7 years, and you've worked it many times as well. I would say this is where you try to culminate as much information as you can, and then you want to call that information, because if you're really paying attention, there's a pretty good goalie by the name of Patrick Waugh, who is now a pretty good coach, who just won the Memorial Cup last year in the Quebec League with Quebec Rampart, and he's coaching New York Islanders. He coached Kucherov and Jr. He had him. So, you know, that's one of those instances where you have to kind of lean on some of that information from people. And I remember talking to Patrick over the years about different players, including Kucherov, and getting that scouting report. So it's not always easy to get all that information, disseminate it, put it together, and make your selection. But I got to tell you what, man, great point by you. What a find. What a find by Tampa's scouting staff. What a find. Him and Braden Point.
Point was picked 79.
Same thing. What a find.
Yeah.
What finds. But when you can get those gems, that's why a lot of times you hear some people, they're like, well, they don't have high pick. They don't. Okay, well, there's still a lot of good players out there to select from.
Yep.
That can be impactful in your organization, or maybe in somebody else's if you use them as an asset to move. So
I'm fascinated by something that was said to me by Scott Gomez years ago. He said, if you're a big guy, you have to prove you can't play in the NHL. If you're a smaller guy, you have to prove you can play.
No doubt.
I think about that again and again. I think there's real wisdom in that, and he experienced it himself. We're going to take a break here on First Shift. Just kidding. We're keeping it right here.
Let's go. Stay on.
Blue line turnover by me.
Let's go. No.
Next,
We got the
Scott
recovery,
Laughton. Let's go with this.
got the recovery.
4 goals for Scott Laughton. The clap bingo was one of the highlights of the night. We did not know there would be 3 other goals for Laughton. First 4-goal game by a Flyer since John LeClair. What were you thinking as this thing was unfolding?
I was thinking, again, we just referenced this in the last segment. There was a guy that wore number 88 for the Flyers that was pretty good.
Tell him about
Sweater's
the big
retired. He's in the Flyers Hall of Fame. He's in the Hockey Hall of Fame. And I've never seen a player like him since. Okay? And I played against both those guys on that board to the right, and Big John LeClair was amazing. And he was a line mate of who I'm referencing, the great Eric Lindros, Big E.
Preach it.
Big E, if you're watching, what's up? He numerous times has told me how much he loves Scott Laughton and what Scott Laughton brings to the Flyers and what he can bring to the Flyers. But last night, Scott Laughton was at his best to me. He was buzzing. He was physical. He was shooting. He was assertive. He just had all the different kind of characteristics of his game were on display last night. That's the way he can play. I'm not saying he's going to score 4 a night, no, but he should be on a night-to-night basis one of the most impactful players on that roster, and he was that and more last night.
Their identity is so entrenched.
Yeah.
You and I both know Torts well.
Yes, of course.
The way that they have performed so far this season. Last year they were in the playoffs the whole year and then faded late.
Exactly.
This team feels like it's taking a better course and perhaps a more legitimate threat to get in the playoffs. And I think that's remarkable considering where they are. Everyone knew this was going to be a rebuild, retool, shake it up and go. But I'm impressed with the way that Torts, who we know believes in accountability, he healthy scratches Michkov the 2 games, and he's been just tremendous. Him and Macklin Celebrini are going to be going head-to-head for the Calder. But I think about, there was a Torts quote earlier this week about Jamie Drysdale. He doesn't want him to worry about making a mistake. Coaches, like players, evolve. There was a time when John Tortorella was a yeller, screamer, and he's changed with the game. He's grown with the differences in how you communicate with people. As we look at this here, they're right in the thick of it, and they did not have a flying start like they did last year. Do you think that they have a better chance, considering what I was just talking about, this year than last?
Well, first of all, you look at the teams that they're ahead of right now, especially the Rangers. Like that we would never project that. The Rangers are a Stanley Cup contending team.
President's Trophy last year.
Won the President's Trophy last year. But what I would say, and having played for Torts and having worked with them here and at ESPN, and then I know Torts very well. Although we're in the results business and we're judged on the wins and losses on a game-to-game, day-to-day basis, of course, because the scoreboard, it's there.
Yeah.
It's indisputable.
Yep.
Sometimes it doesn't go, maybe there's some elements to it The scoreboard's there. Torts' big thing that he's trying to communicate to these guys is, let's get the process right. Let's keep working on the process. Let's get the process right. So once we get the process right, more often than not, we're going to get the better end of the results that we're looking for. Because why? You don't necessarily chase games. There's less self-inflicted wounds. There's less, of course, selfishness at the expense of the team. Sometimes you got to be selfish to make a good play, right? And maybe things of that nature. But when you get all of those things right, you give yourself a shot. Because sports are unforgiving. And the National Hockey League, among all the pro sports in the world,
Agreed.
is the most unforgiving, and it's
Most.
a razor's edge on game to game.
Yep.
No disrespect. I've had buddies play in every league. I'm not saying. But in our league, on a game to game basis, if you're not sharp, look at what San Jose's rattling off right now,
yeah.
Tone.
Yeah.
Look at the way San Jose's playing.
9 losses in a row to start the season. And here they are.
And here they are.
Yeah.
Look at the Flyers, for example. They're proof positive of this. So
Exactly.
the process is improving. Michkov, I think, has a chance to be a superstar in this league.
Amen to that.
Konechny's, Sanheim's, you want to talk about a guy that's turned his game around.
Burst on the scene, Team Canada.
Wow. So
Jeez.
it's nice to see what they're doing down the turnpike in Philly. Hats off to Jonesy, Danny Briere, Torts, and Shawzy and the staff there right now.
It has been so much fun to watch. We're going to take a break here on First Shift, really this time. I got it right. Looky here, Neil Pionk. His team started 15-1-0. What was it like to be a part of that run? We'll ask him that and some other stuff. Straight ahead. Don't move. It's First Shift. So there's a saying we've all heard, defense wins championships. Take a look at the most points among defensemen, highlighted there. 24, Neil Pionk, and we are thrilled to welcome him into First Shift. There is a lot to be said, Neil. Thanks for joining us about the way your team produces points. Second most in the league in terms of points produced among D-men. How do you explain it?
Yeah, it's something we emphasized a couple of years ago with Bones. He talked to myself and Josh Morrissey and the whole group and wanted to make sure that we got involved and helped the offense as much as we can. And I think we've done a good job of that this year.
You guys have taken the game to the next level from a team standpoint. What's been the biggest turnaround from your perspective?
I think we were just, at the start of the year, we were clicking on all cylinders, whether it was power play, Helly bailing us out, getting production from everybody, forwards, defensemen. As a whole group after. We've hit a little bit of a slump here, but I'm confident we'll break out of it.
When you talk about hitting on all cylinders, starting 15-1-0 was truly historic. During that run, what was it like to be a part of your club?
Felt like we couldn't lose, and we couldn't. I mean, like I said, we were finding different ways to win, whether it was our power play scoring 2-3 goals, whether it was our penalty kill, killing 6-7 penalties in a game, or Helly standing on his head, which happened a couple times too. I mean, there was a couple games in there where we probably shouldn't have won, and he stole the game for us. So, different ways to win, certainly when you're 15-1 to start the year.
At any point in your career, at any level, have you been on a team that's been on a run like that? And if so, when was the last time?
Sophomore year of high school, we were 30-0 going into the state championship and lost the state championship.
Whoa.
Oh, man.
Yeah, tough ending, but 30-game winning streak was pretty good.
No doubt.
Does that memory stick with you? It might, based on the way you delivered it.
Yeah, brought up a sore subject.
Sorry about that.
I was asking guys around the room, and that was kind of my story. So, that was a tough one.
Your story is fascinating. We see on the board that you're 2 games shy of 500 games played for an undrafted college free agent, UMD Bulldogs. How did you get to this point where you are a very well-respected pro with hundreds of games of experience?
Yeah, long journey. Obviously went through the ranks of high school, USHL, and college, and had a great support staff, coaching staff, development staffs, building confidence in every level, whether that was USHL, college, or even in the American League there, and then in the NHL. Played with some really good players too, so that's helped along the way.
Tony, you remember we were on the night when he had that unreal goal at the Garden.
Oh, yeah.
We went bonkers.
Nuts.
Yeah, you're trying to keep it tight and buttoned up right now, but we were
I
going
still remember
wild.
your reaction, Beaksy.
Do you remember this?
I remember you lifting the chair over your head.
We went wild.
Yes.
That's one of the best goals I've ever seen, ever.
Amen. Preach it.
At any level. But I want to go back to that goal because that is a Bobby Orr-esque, that is a Paul Coffey, the greats of the GOATs. At what point in time were you like, okay, I think I have something here? Was it once you got by the first forechecker or the second? Take us through that one.
Got by the first one, and I was looking to offload the puck. I was looking to pass it, and then once I got around the defenseman, I thought I was going to have a chance to score, and I did. Funniest part about that whole goal, we get done with the game, the whole post-game ceremonies, all that stuff, and Mark Stahl comes up to me and says, "You couldn't give me a touch."
Now we're talking. Now we're talking. No way.
Way to take us inside.
That boy Staller.
But, yeah, it was great. No, it was one to remember for sure.
Oh my God.
That's an awesome
That was a
story.
Picasso, Tony.
Yes, it was. Magnificent.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you about the goalie, Connor Hellebuck, who has now won 2 Vezinas. We always hear that the defense and the goalie, they have to work seamlessly, cohesively. When you see what he does behind you, and you mentioned earlier him stealing games, what impresses you the most about his game?
I mean, just the saves that he makes, the position he's always in. Like I said, he steals backdoor goals that should go in every night. He stops breakaways, all sorts of saves. Obviously, he's a big goalie. He takes up a lot of space. I always say he wouldn't be as good of goalie unless I was giving up all those chances. So, I play some part of it.
That's great.
No, but he's great. Not only that, he truly thinks every goal shouldn't go in, whether it's a backdoor tap, and he'll say something like, "Oh, I should have had that one." I'm like, "Kelly, that was our fault. That wasn't yours." That's the mindset that he has, and I think that's what's made him a winner.
I respect that. That's very similar to Jonathan Quick, the great Jonathan Quick.
Oh,
He thinks that way as well.
Yep.
What's been the best part for you about playing in the Peg? Obviously, you've gotten more run, more minutes, but what's been the best part of playing in Winnipeg for you?
It's a hockey town. Plain and simple. I mean, we're the show in town. I think that's the best part. It could be a Tuesday night and the rink's jumping. There's a party on the street. It's so fun. So playing in a Canadian market too, it's great. There's obviously some pressure that comes with it, but like I said, we're the show in town, and that's the best part about it.
Football is the show in town in the great state of Nebraska. If the internet is right, you were born in Omaha, Nebraska? How is this possible? Why aren't you like a running back running the option at Nebraska, the Lincoln powerhouse that was coached by Tom Osborne to 3 national championships in 4 years? Go ahead.
I was born there. My dad was coaching for the Omaha Lancers. So I was born there, lived there for, 2 years. And then he got hired in Waterloo, actually. So he lived in Waterloo, Iowa for a bit. He's from Duluth, Minnesota originally. So once he was done there, we went back to Duluth. And I grew up in Duluth. So we were there when I was 5 years old. So I grew up playing there and just outside of Duluth in Hermantown, Minnesota.
Who was your favorite player growing up?
I was a Wild fan, so a guy like Marian Gaborik comes to mind. I don't know if I ever had a true favorite player. If the Wild didn't make playoffs, for whatever reason, I was a Red Wings fan because they were in the playoffs every single year.
They were.
Understandable. They were automatic.
Year. Yeah, guys like Datsuk, Lindstrom, Rafalski, guys like that. But yeah, Marian Gaborik was such a star when the Wild first came down.
No doubt. So electric.
One of my favorite players, a current teammate of yours, Josh Morrissey. Last night he had a beautiful bingo. His game, more and more people are talking about him. He's no longer underrated or underappreciated. What's it like being his teammate?
It's fantastic. I get a front row seat to the show every night. I mean, the way he moves with and without the puck, his skating is probably the best on the team. I think you saw that with the overtime goal the other night. The overtime assist, I should say, when Lowry scored there in Buffalo. His puck handling, his vision, his IQ, it's phenomenal. So he's the leader in our back end, and it's been special to watch.
We always say living the dream. What's the best part of living the dream for you, playing in the National?
Scoring on Hellebuck in practice. Doesn't happen often. No, I mean, it's
nice.
You don't feel it until you go back home in the summer.
Sure.
And then you get home to decompress in the summer, and you're like, wow, I'm really doing this for a living. It's fantastic. So try not to take every day for granted, trying to enjoy going to the rink every day.
I'm so impressed with players around the league, executives, the way that organizations make a point of getting impactful opportunities within their communities. Yep. Your team has done it many times, and we saw this on X. Activities, photos, autographs, special gifts. We had an amazing day at the Rehabilitation Center 4 children. How gratifying is it to go on a trip like that one?
Yeah, I went to the Children's Hospital. I've been to the Rehabilitation Center as well, but it's one of my, it's the favorite community event of the year for me. You just got so much appreciation for how strong those kids are, and to put a smile on their face, even if it's for an hour out of our day. We're told that they talk about that for weeks, if not months. They put a picture on the wall in their hospital room. And that's what it's all about. That's what being a role model is in the city, and that's how you become part of the city too. And it's probably one of my favorite days of the year.
Great stuff. Yeah, that community stuff is very impactful, and also it's very imperative too. So nice to see you guys out there spreading good cheer and providing those good vibes for a lot of the kids and their families that certainly need it. And in turn, I'm sure they give you guys a boost as well, which is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, they're going through so much stuff that I can't even imagine to go through. And they're so strong. They're living to fight another day, literally in some senses. Yeah. And just to see that, it truly shows you that your worst day isn't that bad. It's very inspiring.
That's great perspective to have. It doesn't seem like a smooth transition, but I'm going to try it. Behind you, I see green furniture. What's the thought process there?
That's not my department. That'd be my wife's.
It's sharp, though. I like that. I like that emerald.
Yeah, when I saw them, I asked the same question, so I'm still waiting.
No, it looks comfy. It looks poofy.
I love the emerald. You can't see it, but there's emerald accenting on this too. I love
nice.
Green. I love the green. Let's quick follow up. In terms of sports or other interests outside of the game, what are you into? Are you an F1 guy? Are you a soccer, British Premier League guy, NFL, all the above? Painting?
Growing up, I played baseball my entire life.
Okay,
I actually played baseball. I played baseball through college in an amateur wood bat league until I was 21.
Nice.
I signed pro with the Rangers and probably figured I shouldn't sprain my ankle around at second base, so I picked up this stupid sport called golf.
Nice.
Non-contact.
So yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I've gotten better. I'm not good, but I've gotten better. So those are my two things. And to this day, I still follow baseball. We actually have a fantasy baseball league here on the Jets team, which is
really
nice.
I won the league, just so everybody knows that.
But, nice. How was the pot? Was it juicy?
Yeah, it was juicy. It was juicy.
Boy.
But, took some of Kyle Connor's money, so that's good.
Whoa. Nice.
So we got a few baseball fans on the team, so it's fun.
Before we let you go, one quick trivia question. Because you grew up in Minnesota, Mark Parrish told me this, so it's got to be right. Joe Mauer, in high school, as a baseball player, struck out how many times? Your hint is?
I think it's one, yeah.
Incredible.
Right?
That's unbelievable.
Didn't he letter in every sport, too?
Everything.
He lettered in every sport.
Yeah. All the greatness.
That's unreal.
He won in football, I think, too. He was a quarterback, I think.
So awesome.
What a baller.
Yeah.
No kidding.
All-around ballerization.
You knew it.
Exactly.
Neil, we were thrilled to talk with you. This has been
thank
great.
You so much, man.
Continued success to you and the Jets.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right,
our pleasure. We're going to take a break here on First Shift. When we come back, bubble hockey. Not the thing with the levers that we all love. This is what teams are on the playoff bubble. Will they make it? Maybe they don't. Debate next. We're here for bubble hockey.
Nice.
Our crew stays elite.
I love it.
Well done. Oh, look at
snap.
JD.
Wow.
One of my favorite producers in the history
Right
of
on
television.
cue. Right on
Nicely
cue.
done, sir. Talk us through what we're doing here.
I mean, I was so nervous about blowing that bubble live. I'm not very good at it.
You nailed it.
You nailed it, though.
Like everything else.
Thank God. So we're talking teams on the bubble in the Eastern Conference, in case you couldn't tell from what's going on all around me right now. Hey, Sterno, let's see font 2 here. Here's the current Eastern Conference playoff picture.
Yeah. Boom.
All right? And now if you look in the Atlantic Division, they may not look like a bubble team on this graphic, but how about the Boston Bruins right now? They're off to a bad start on a 5-game West road trip, dropped the first 2 games. Weeksy, do you think the Bruins bubble's gonna burst?
I don't think it's going to burst, but I think it's very close to bursting. I think there needs to be some urgency in their group. They've been so good for so long, so consistent for so long. As we know, one of the most consistent franchises in the league. This year, for a whole host of reasons, it's been the opposite. And the road record to me is troubling, Tone. When you look at the goals against per game, that to me shows, forget all the other metrics, but the goals against especially, that's glaring for a Boston Bruins.
Yeah, big split between home and away.
For sure. If you had to put that up, you would never thought that was the Boston Bruins.
No.
So that to me is troubling, and they're teetering on the bubble bursting if they don't get it right.
I'm fascinated by the fact that the Sacco move gets made. Jim Montgomery, a couple years ago, was the Jack Adams winner. I was really impressed with the ownership and leadership that was taken by Brad Marchand. Of course, he's the captain. He was talking about how their practice habits have leaked over into games. Mm-hmm. This is a team, when the head coaching change was made, Charlie McAvoy talked about it. We've heard all the right words, yet when we look at where they are, we've always been told you can't just flip a switch. Mm-hmm. What you showed, and our crew, excellent job by showing the disparity, 2.5 or so goals at home, almost 4 on the road. That doesn't seem like a model of a team that is going to not just make the playoffs, but go on a run, because that's what Bruins fans are all about. I am not as confident as I thought they were going to turn it around. And Sacco, 7-2-0 in his first 9 games. I'm not sure. I don't feel confident, where in previous years I was like, absolutely, they're going to the playoffs.
Yeah,
a couple years ago, they had the best regular season ever.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, if you look at the league stats here, standings, if you will, just flip it up here.
There they are.
There's no column for talk.
No. It's all results. We're in a results-oriented business.
So a lot of times, and it's always best efforts too. Guys in the dressing room, they're like, we have to, we got to. But ultimately, you got to go out and do those things and be committed to doing those things.
And Marchand talked about, he was asked if Swayman kind of deserved a pass, and he was outside. No, we're all in this thing together. And you can speak to this. Mm-hmm. There is a reason that they have training camp. Obviously, contentious tug of war. He had to get the contract, and Olmark's not there. Dramatic.
Yeah.
I'm with Weeksy that the bubble could burst soon. JD.
Far be it for me to cut Bruins conversation short, but we got to move things along
do
here.
it.
Hey,
do it.
How about the New York Islanders? The front two here, Sterno. They're getting a couple of key pieces back pretty soon. Duclair, Barzal, and Pelech all practiced in full at morning skate yesterday. Weeksy, back to you here. What do you think? This Islanders bubble floating your boat?
Same thing. They're eerily close, which is uncharacteristic of a Lou Lamoriello team, the great Lou Lamoriello and the great Patrick Waugh. But I definitely think they've kept it afloat enough to give themselves a chance in light of those injuries and more that they've sustained, especially to their 2 key offensive players in Barzal and Duclair. They're hanging around. They're still in the mix, Tone. So I'm not panicked quite yet. I would like to see them make some more moves to the roster. But I'm not panicked. They get those guys back. I think that could jumpstart things a little bit for them.
No team in the league has been less effective in third periods. They've given up the most third period goals. We know about it. This is the differential. Last night they were up 5-1, cruising, and then it's 5-4 with less than 10 seconds to play. We know teams play to their identity. That's not an identity that you expect from a Patrick Waugh coach team. I like that Barzal's coming back, because when I watch their games, they don't have a guy like that. He can create. He's so dynamic. I'm glad he's going to be coming back, JD.
I am absolutely covered in soap bubbles. We got to keep this thing moving here.
Getting pruny.
How about the Pittsburgh Penguins? They've been playing much better of late, pulling up on the stick. You guys buyers on Sid and company as a bubble team?
Well, I'm always bullish on Sid.
Yeah, never bet against the superhero.
I never bet against him.
Please.
So I'm always bullish on Sid. And Gino and those guys for what they bring to the table and what they're capable of doing. But they need help. But finally, they're getting some of that help. Some of those younger players that they acquired are starting to chip in, give them some energy, give them some more speed.
Yep.
They're on a good uptick right now. So, hey, if you're the Penguins, Tristan Jarry's playing better. Nedeljkovic is playing better. If you're them, why not them? I'd say, hey, guys, why not us? I'm not giving up on them yet.
I really like Brian Rust. He's been good of late.
Yep.
And they're a team that knows what it takes. Obviously, having gone to Cup finals the way that Sid and Gino did, winning in 16 and 17 and 09 even, I think when you look at their roster, losing a Jake Gensel, you're not going to replace that.
No.
He's great for a reason.
Yes.
It wasn't just by playing around Sidney Crosby. I wonder which team they really are. The team that's gone on the surge that our crew just showed graphically, or earlier in the year where they were really fighting it. I'm not sure which is the real Penguin.
That's fair. That's fair to say. I'm not either at this point, just based on where they are in the window with their organization. And all that remains to be seen.
JD,
TBD.
Bring it.
Alrighty, we got enough bubble stuff for one more team
Here we go.
The only game in town tonight, you got the Ottawa Senators taking on the Carolina Hurricanes.
Good one.
Fellas, what do you think about the Sens? They've
Good one.
kind of pulled up recently. Check out their last 8 games.
Not a boy, JD.
I like what I've seen, especially that big win against Anaheim with the 4-point night for Fort Wayne, Indiana's own Drake Batherson. 4-point night, had a hat trick and an assist. Brady Tkachuk continues to be unreal for them. Same with Tim Stützle. Linus Ullmark is starting to get comfortable. Vezina Trophy winner starting to get more comfortable in the net, which is huge for them.
Yes.
Same thing. Why not the Sens? I'm not giving up on them yet either. Why not the Sens? They've got a lot of talent.
Not all wins are created equal. We're both hoops guys. I once asked Jerry Sloan, his Jazz had won 3 straight games. They're going to miss the playoffs. And I said, what's been different during the stretch? And he said, we beat bad teams. I was like, whoa. When you look at some of their wins, think about Anaheim, San Jose. And San Jose is, we've talked about many times, they're on the ascent. Detroit, can they produce? Can they deliver in games against better teams? To be a playoff team, you got to be able to beat playoff teams.
Sure.
Can they do that? I want to see it against better competition.
That's exactly right, and I think that only time can answer that, and only the guys in the group can answer that with their level of commitment and the style of game that they're playing. Another great story for them has been Adam Gaudette.
Yeah.
The Godfather. He's played so well for them.
So good.
What a find for them. He's been outstanding. So, all right, JD, what else you got?
I got nothing else. I got to go take a shower here.
Attaboy.
Let's get the heck out of here.
Rinse
Let's
the
take
bubbles
a break
off.
on NHL Tonight First Shift. The Chicago Blackhawks, the focus of our next conversation tone. We're going to talk about them. They're going to be on the showcase both days this weekend. Bedard and Company is the focus next on First Shift.
Attaboy, JD. It's First Shift, and this weekend we've got games to look forward to. We see a pair of showcase tilts, both featuring the Chicago Blackhawks. Luke Richardson out, Anders Sorensen in, and this team is gearing up to play in the Winter Classic, which is going to be a thrill. We look at this, posted on X or Twitter if you prefer. Welcome back, Frank Nazar. His addition to the lineup will do what for this team?
I think it's going to electrify the team in a sense. He's a very gifted offensive player. I thought he should have been there all year. Their development kind of plan would suggest otherwise. They probably felt they were going to have him down there to play more meaningful minutes, etc., play in more situations. All that said, 24 points to lead all rookies at this point in the American League. He's having himself a whale of a season. But to me, based on the roster composition, there aren't a lot of people that are better in a spot than he would be in the spot. So I like the fact that they've called him up. I want to see him there the rest of the season, as long as he plays the way I anticipate he will play. And now you, in addition to Bedard up front, you have one of your other top prospects, arguably your top prospect, in Frankie Nazar. Have him up there. I like to see it.
You mentioned Bedard. I love the countdown show that they do on Max. Getting to see him up close. He had somewhat of a crisis of confidence earlier in the year where he wasn't scoring goals. His shooting percentage was low. He really looked frustrated. We've been around him, and it was the only time I've ever felt like he really is whatever age it is, 18, 19, whatever it is, 20. Like, any time I was around him before that, supremely confident that even he could feel somewhat of a lack of confidence and fight through it. Good for him.
Yeah, exactly. Good for it. It's really difficult as a young player. I know that from my own experience. And you come in having played at every other level, and you know you have the talent, you have the skill set, you're hungry, you're motivated, you have best intentions, and then the games don't go quite the way you want, and then you can't make the impact that you'd like to make for your teammates. And that's a frustrating thing, having been there. And any player that's gone through that will tell you that, especially as a young player. But those are the moments, and through those tough times, where it allows you to become the player and the person that you're ultimately trying to become, because you find a way to find solutions. And with that, for a guy like Connor Bedard, it's it's not only playing to his strengths, which is his elite shot and his hockey IQ,
No doubt.
but being able to round your game out, being able to have better reads defensively, being able to know that you need to keep your feet moving at different times instead of being stuck. All those things that it takes to go into being the NHL player that he wants to be and that he's working to become.
He didn't have a frame of reference for the stretch that he went through. He's always been Connor
Exactly.
Bedard. He's always been amazing.
Yeah.
Glad he was able to power through that. We're going to take a break. When we come back, are you stitious? A little stitious? Superstitious? If you've been around hockey people, you know it's not uncommon for there to be superstitions around the room, around the team. We'll talk more about it next. If you're a Stanley Cup winner, you do what fits you. Stephen Lorenz, this is the way he gets going, Weeksy. This is pre-game, warm-up routine. What do you think?
Yeah, a big man going into the glass, hard,
Get the feel of the...
whatever it takes. That's what we say in the dressing room, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes to get you ready.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, because you've been in this thing, up close, and superstitions. It's Friday the 13th. Any funny stories about superstitions in the league?
Yeah, not even necessarily funny, but very unique. Playing with the great Henrik Lundqvist in New York with the Rangers just across the Hudson River here. He wanted the guys to do breakaways on him in the warm-up. Now, I've never seen this before, ever in life at any level, ever of hockey. I've never seen a goalie want that, demand that, crave that before the game, because what happens? They score some goals on you, then you go into the game, you're kind of upset, you're kind of ticked off. But he wanted that smoke, and I'd have to say it really worked for him. He was the only guy I've seen that commanded that and wanted that, and it really worked for him to his advantage.
I once heard a story about a coach, his goalie wasn't playing great, and he said to the rest of the group, this is an escape.
Yeah.
Everything into the pads.
Oh, yeah.
Everything
Of
into the
course.
pads. And then the
Yes.
goalie happened to say, I've got it all. You know, I'm stopping
Yeah.
everything. And the players were like, oh, God.
Yeah, of course.
They didn't realize.
No doubt, no doubt.
Confidence
Coaches
is so
will
important. That part of it blows me away, that he would make himself vulnerable
For sure.
potentially.
Make himself vulnerable to get. I mean, we had great shooters, great talented players led by Jaromir Jagr, Mike Nylander. We had a really good team, but he wanted the smoke, and it looked like it worked for him.
That guy,
Yeah.
supremely confident. Whatever he did, it worked.
Yep.
Hank Lundqvist. Thanks so much for watching. EJ will be back in this seat on Monday. This was First Shift. We had fun.
Let's